Hello lovely people, if this is your first time on my channel, welcome, and if not, welcome back. In summary of what I edited out from our last conclave discussion about the Veilguard gameplay reveal, I told my friends how the ritual site reminded me of a mural. While I was intensely watching the ritual unfold with the glistening emerald water of the Fade being harnessed by Solas to fuel his magic, I became aware of the amount of statues that were there, just like in the ancient elven mural painted on the walls at the scholar retreat in the Verderthra, or Shattered Library. This ancient mural, along with some others, serves as a visual record of significant events that happened during the ancient times of the elves before they were humans. The location in the trailer and in the backdrop behind the sphere of figures depicts Arlathan. Similarly, the scene in the mural also has a round platform encircled by 2 rows of statues with 7 monumentally large ones behind the 7 smaller replicas, painted in an isometric view. I interpret the sunbeams in the center of the red sphere as a burst of energy, meaning a ritual happened there but with a different source of magic. So when I mentioned that Solas' scene in the trailer reminded me of the mural, my friend Happy Thought said,
I have a really boring theory for why there might be 14.
Go for it.
All of the Evanirus had high priests who sat below them.
If you played the Dragon Age Awakening DLC, go back to the Architect's Room past the Silverite Mine. The way Falandin's statues flank Arthemios presents him as a guardian. So what if the Evanirus were originally the high keepers or protectors of these primordial old gods? Solas disclosed that the Evanirus were in fact phenomenally powerful mages who rose in prominence from being generals during the Unknown War to being elders, then kings, and eventually as revered gods and tyrants. But for the High Keepers or Guardians to become the Elven Pantheon means they would have had to usurp the gods, steal their divinity, erase them from history, and ascend themselves through feats and tales worthy of godhood. I'm going to go over the relationship the High Keepers had with the old gods while dropping in comparisons between the gameplay trailer and the mural. This is going to be a 2-in-1 video, but I promise I'll pull it all together at the end. There are some discrepancies in the trailer that others have pointed out, so I'll do my best to elaborate on those as well. Be warned that I'll be bringing up lores from previous Dragon Age games, so spoiler alert. To understand the significance of the old gods is to understand the metaphorical or theological meaning of their names. And when I referenced my breakdown against the Canticles of Threnodies 5 in the Chant of Light, the match is a bit uncanny. Dumont, O God of Silence, symbolizes nothingness, the state of non-existence.
There was no word, for heaven or for earth, for sea or sky. All that existed was silence.
Zazikel, the old god of chaos, symbolizes the early state of the cosmos constituted of nothing but undifferentiated and indistinguishable matter. It also symbolizes the mythological void state preceding the creation of the universe in ancient Near Eastern cosmology and early Greek cosmology.
Then the voice of the Maker rang out, the first word, and his word became all that might be, dream and idea, hope and fear, endless possibilities.
Thoth, O God of Fire, symbolizes wisdom and knowledge, divinity, transformation, ingenuity, and the literal power of fire.
At last did the Maker from the living world make men, immutable as the substance of the earth.
Adderall, O God of Slaves, symbolizes the suffering we experience from perpetual desires or hunger and mortality.
Then the Maker said, To you, my second-born, I grant this gift. In your heart shall burn an unquenchable flame, all-consuming and never satisfied.
Arthemio, O God of Beauty, means compassion and spirituality as well as balance.
Here I decree opposition in all things, for earth, sky, for winter, summer, for darkness, light. By my will alone is balance sundered, and the world given new life.
If that narrative sounds like a creation myth to you, well, you're not wrong. Let's complete the story by interpreting the names of the last 2 archdemons that have yet to appear on Thedas, the Old God of Mystery and the Old God of Night. Zazikel, O God of Mystery, represents the mystery of creation that something must be sacrificed and die in order for something to live.
By my will alone is balance sundered, and the world given new life.
Lucican, O God of Night, represents the passage through the unknown and the unformed, the unconscious and the unenlightened. The only difference in this creation myth from the Chant of Light is the possibility of it having more than one maker, or the concept of divinity made whole only from the sum of its parts. So how does this relate to Solas' scene? Excluding the spark radiating off to the right of the main structure, there are 5 shiny diamond fragments above 5 out of the 7 statues. But why? The only connection I can make is that they are from the 5 archdemons from the 5 previous splites, such as the one floating over Arthemios' triad symbol. If that's the case, then the other souls of Dumont, Zazikel, Toth, and Enderall would have gone through the dark ritual to be cleansed rather than jumping into another tainted body. The inconsistency with the speculation is that the Grey Warden must partake in the dark ritual to prevent the archdemon soul from destroying the Warden's souls along with theirs, and there's been at least 1 reported death or 2 confirmed ones depending on the choice you made in Origins. I don't know how integrated our past world states will be, but I have a feeling that Bioware will follow some of its own canon due to the highly curated narrative as stated by Corrine Bush during the Discord Q&A session. For now, I feel strongly that those are soul sparks of the old gods, and I also think they are on the wrong statues due to the mistakes that made it into the gameplay trailer. The placement of the statues are also mixed up, but the moonhead is actually in the right place if it's supposed to correlate with the ancient elven mural, and I'll show you why later. Since I feel it's very possible that the elven gods were once high keepers to the old gods, I need to pair them up by their symbols, starting with the Evanirus. To make things easier for myself, I'm going to use this beautiful illustration most of you have seen many times and flip it around to do the match. I've never attempted this before, so this is going to be a challenge, but it's fine. We'll start with the giveaways. The Game Informer cover story of Veilguard revealed that Ringhead is Elgar'nan and Crescent Head is Killanan, so that saved me a lot of embarrassment. This next symbol of a triad has a similar silhouette as the headdress seen on the statue of Falandin in Dragon Age Origins. In Dalish lore, Falandin is said to be the twin of Durthaman, but scraps of stories after the fall of Arlathan referred them as twin souls, but draw no family connection. The oldest stories never even mentioned them by name directly, referring to Falandin as Durthaman's shadow and Durthaman as Falandin's reflection. Since I'm not sure if they should be separated, I'm going to place the twinsies under the same symbol. This set of horns reminds me of those on animals like bulls or dragons, so my best guess is that this symbol represents Andruil, the hunter who hunted men and creatures alike. I also saw an illustration of her in the missing comic, so it only confirms that this symbol belongs to Andruil. For a while, I really don't know what this bottom right symbol is until I heard Gil Thorthalan call it a nib of an ink pen, a tool generally wielded by scribes or bards that none of the Evanirus represents, but I do know of a god of crafts. However, according to Elysian scholars, Jeunet appears most seldom of all elven deities, and the only depictions have none of the tools the Dalish associate with him. In a memory found at the Shattered Library, Jeunet was called clever rather than crafty for a great favor he did for Solas. So I had to wonder what was so clever about him until a different image emerged from the symbol I saw was more relatable to the ancient elves, a person in prayer from a top-down view. When you connect a supplicant to a nib of the ink pen, it speaks of blood writing or Velasline. The nib looks similar to the tip of this tool shown in the Blue Wraith comic, used to permanently mark the skin of the Dalish elves with Velaslins as their rite of passage and patronage of their elven gods. But in the days of Arlathan, slaves were marked with Velaslins as signs of ownership by their elven nobles and in the intricate tattoos of the elven god most favored by their owners. The connection also coincides with Jeunet's mosaic, the only one with a swirl on the forehead, while the others don't have markings on their faces. Next, we have the symbol of a starburst or a sunbeam. The best explanation I can give as to why this symbol belongs to Solas is that the new stars offer heat and light, or in concentrated amount, a sun ray can cause combustion. This symbol makes the most sense for the goddess of Hearth who taught the people fire. This is an odd one. On the model in the Veilguard gameplay trailer, it has a weird shape. Actually, a couple of the symbols looks more streamlined in the gameplay trailer than they are in the animated illustration. Based on the illustration alone, the symbol sort of looks like a tree trunk, which can relate to Mythal's tree-like Velaslin, but it also looks like a vial or a paddle, so to be honest, I needed to dig a little deeper and take a moment to think about this one. For now, I'm going to leave it blank. Now I need to connect the symbols to the old gods. The main consideration here is how to go about it. The one thing that stumps me the most is that the old gods doesn't necessarily correlate with the nature, demeanor, or actions of the Evanirus, such as with Falandin, the god of death and fortune, to Arthemio, the old god of beauty. So I'm going to literally eye this and let the symbols visually speak to me, and maybe look up any metaphorical meanings as a guide. A couple of them are easier to pair with, so first up, the old god of beauty, Arthemio, symbolized by his heraldry which resembles what Falandin's statue has on his head. There's images of the old god in the Bioware 25 years anniversary book and in an old concept art of him in the deep roads with his headdress. His headdress and heraldry can be seen as a triad, a symbol found in many divine concepts to convey trinity or multifaceted god, such as the Irish goddess Morgan and the Trimurti, a trinity of supreme divinity in Hinduism. Trinity is also intrinsic with the tree of life or cosmic tree, by which to understand the human condition in relation to the divine and the sacred realm. As I said earlier in the video, beauty also represents balance, so what shadow and reflection truly means will define how balance can be achieved. Maybe a bit of Jungian psychology would help? The next easiest one would be Anderal, the old god of slaves relating to the symbol that looks like a supplicant. Jeunet would be the perfect highkeeper for this god by his clever invention of the Valislin. You might not believe this, but the ring symbol was my next easy match to Luscan, the old god of night. If you stick a Thetis moon in the empty space, you can call it an eclipse, an astronomical event that darkens the sky. Many ancient civilizations regarded and feared solar eclipses as supernatural apparitions, considering them omens of pending doom. I think having Elgarnon as its high keeper before he became the old god of vengeance is quite ominous. People have always considered the moon to be mysterious because of its changing appearance during the linear cycle, so I'm going to connect this symbol to Zazikel, the old god of mystery. And based on the creation myth, mystery and sacrifice is necessary to create new life, and creation is a skill Gilnanon was quite prolific and proficient in. For Thoth, the old god of fire, the literal and figurative meaning of this element would go well with the warmth and light the mother of hearth like Solas would be revering. This one proves to be difficult. I'm going to match the old god of chaos to this horn symbol. What's the saying? Crazy like a bull? That's all I got, okay? So I'm placing Andrew as the high keeper of this old god. Well, that leaves the last symbol for Dumat, the old god of silence. Figuring out what this doohickey is wasn't easy. Again, basing only on the illustration, it's really not a straight line if you count the base on it. It kinda looks like a vial, but it's odd unless there's an inside joke about being stuck in a flask with no one to talk to. But it's more telling if I follow the ridge of the symbol, creating an outline of an arrow. It is when my friend Helen brought up the headdresses of the Egyptian pharaohs that I dug into Egyptian hieroglyphics and symbology. A popular motif is the Simatawi, one of the ancient Egyptian symbols to represent the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt. The Simatawi represents the trachea, or the king's lungs. To me, it speaks of the voice of authority or the lack thereof. Therefore, this symbol will nicely represent the old god of silence, Dumat. Now seeing all the high keepers and the old gods paired together, I'm doubting them if all fits Dumat simply because we have more lore and notes that speaks of Thurthamin's devotees harboring secrets in silence and slumber.
We few whisper here where shadow dwells. Some words remain unuttered. Truths are pushed down, down, where they shall never arise again.
Even his mosaic is giving me the vibe. It's me, it's me. I also nearly forgot about this set of mosaics in the Forgotten Sanctuary that solidifies Thurthamin being Falandin's twin soul, while separately standing beside Mythal, so I'm going to pair the Keeper of Secrets as Dumat's High Keeper. While we're at it, I want to touch the placement of the statues in the gameplay trailer based on the pairings we did. As a guide, I flipped the mural upside down to match the illustration. Since we know that there are 4 males and 3 female Evanirus trapped by Solas, I'm going to assign the figures by their gender. Next, I'm going to copy the names of the elven gods that I assigned in the illustration to the mural. So here we see a problem. The top center figure is supposed to be a female, while the bottom left figure is supposed to be a male. The only 2 Evanirus that needs to switch positions are Gilnanon and Elgarnon. If we base Solas' ritual scene to the mural, statues with the symbols for Elgarnon, Jeunet, Falandins, Solas, and Andrew are out of order. And of course, the soul sparks are on the wrong statues. But the statue representing Gilnanon is in the correct place. After going through the whole exercise, let's tie it back to the mural and gameplay trailer. As mentioned at the beginning of the video, this mural depicts an event that happened before humans appeared on Thetis. It's coming in full circle what the hatch marks on Solas' desk in the rotunda implies. It's been long since Alani Zenovia's prediction of the falling prison, and it's understandable that Solas would be preoccupied upon awakening to Mythal's activities and the threat of Elgarnon and Gilnanon's release from their failing prison. Without Venhorel's orb, however, Solas needed another way to tear down the veil. The radiant beams blasting into the sky from the soul sparks reminded me of the same powerful stream of energy that launched out of the orb when the Inquisitor held it over his anchor. But instead of sealing the breach, the soul sparks are either drawing in the Fae to power Solas' ritual, maintaining the hold of the other prisons, or, a big guess here, restraining the other Evanirus in the Fade who are bound to those old god souls, leaving Solas to deal with only Elganon and Gilnanon. I suspect that the spark to the far right of the scene is connected to one of the two figures standing in front of the Illuvians shown on the mural, and the lonely soul spark may belong to Mytha, since she sent one through the mirror before Solas absorbed her. Mytha is not typically known for having a raven as her spirit animal, other than potentially Beteared of Bright Axe's leaf-eared lover, aka Lady of the Skies, who is said to be raven-feathered. And the mosaics of the elven gods always appear bald, so either of the gatekeepers could represent her. By their stance below the two spheres implies to me that the gatekeepers were meant to watch or guard the passage to the sacred realm of the divine, usually depicted in gold in many cultures, and the material realm expressed by the watery blue color of lyrium, or Titan's blood. But when Solas created the veil, it altered the conjunction and the delicate balance of the two realms. I've saved the most important part for last, which is, what is the red sphere, and why are all the statues painted black in the mural and not in gold like we see in the trailer? As Solas states to the Inquisitor when asked about blood magic,
"But as I said, magic is magic. It matters only in how it is used."
the black figures can metaphorically mean the depravity or malice of the elven gods who may have used blood magic on their own people, and because they were the High Keepers, it's reasonable to think that the elves also mistrust the old gods. It so happens that the new Veilguard trailer just came out as I was polishing the script for this video, and it began with Solas chastising Rogue for interfering with his ritual that let the blighted elven gods walk free. Let me repeat that. Blighted elven gods. There's a big time gap between what really happened after the war against the Pillars of the Earth and when the elves urgently sealed the caverns with stone and magic. Many have speculated that the red sphere represented red lyrium. However, if red lyrium was brought to the surface for a ritual, we should have seen the lands around the open amphitheater ravaged by blight, instead of lush green trees and grass. Somehow, these powerful mages has gotten themselves tainted to gain blight magic that can do damage to both spiritual and physical. So the story around Andrew utilizing the void for her armor and weapons is only partially true. My speculation about the red sphere is far simpler. I think a sacrifice or execution was made that ended up locking the blighted elven gods in the Fade. If the reveal in the Game Informer cover story is any indicator, then the way Solas got trapped in the Fade after Rook's blood interacted with his ritual, a blood sacrifice or an execution may have happened, sealing the fates of the Evanirus without them knowing it, or that they never expected it to be their own downfall, until Fen'Harel erected the veil that would segregate them and their influence in the Fade from Elvenon on Earth. There you have it, my theory on the connection between Solas' scene in the Veilguard gameplay trailer to an ancient elven mural, as well as the Evanirus' relationship with the old gods and how Fen'Harel was able to trap them in the Fade. If you like what you heard or saw, please press the like button and subscribe. Also, feel free to send me comments on how I did with the pairing. Thank you for tuning in.